Hello to all. Today we will talk about mockups and how to make them easy. Let's first understand what a mockup is. Mockup is a template with which we can facilitate and speed up our work. In this case, you see a business card with two minions on it. The business card is a template on which we put the information we or our customer need. With just 2 clicks, we can replace this image with other required content. So, to make our job easier, we use ready-made templates or create our own, which we will call mockups. So, today we will talk about several topics. The first of which is the use of ready-made mockups, which is freely available on the internet. But before, we will talk about links and copyrights. In the following example, we will put the image we need as a mockup on an ordinary picture, which is originally like this. Imagine that you could advertise an internet site or a store here. We will also talk about creating mockups in cases where the image area is not an exact rectangle, and there are distracting elements on top of it, such as this press, whether it could be a finger or a cup of coffee. Let's try to create a mockup on a bag similar to a t-shirt or a gift bag. In the end, we will finish by creating the bottle label. In this case, we must keep in mind that the label must repeat the shape of the bottle, and in order not to have to shape each label separately, we will create a template in which any label can be inserted. Let's start with the simplest, ready-made template which we can find on the internet. Let's open the browser. There are several links where we can find a large number of free mockup templates. I use freepik.com more often. We enter the site, type in the keyword we need, such as a business card, and see what is available to us. Here we see various card designs from which we can choose the most suitable for us. By clicking on it, we see whether it is free or we have to register or pay, depending on what the rules are for the specific design element. In this case, we can press download, free download, and get this image in zip format. What will it look like? I have already downloaded one template with a t-shirt. Here you can see a JPEG picture, a PSD file with layers and license terms, which is also very important, because if you want to publish this information online or print it, you must refer to the author. There are 2 licenses. The first I open is for users who are not registered on the site and do not pay a subscription fee. This second license applies to subscribed users. I will tell you in 2 words what is written here. If we want to publish the downloaded information online, we need to copy this line here in the description, so it will be visible to the viewers, so that they know who is the author of this design. If we want to print the design elements, then we have to copy this line into the work, which will be print, also referring to the author. And now, when our PSD file is opened in Photoshop, we see our business card. There we can change the design and contents of the text or image as we need. How we do it? We look in layers and look for a smart object. Double-click on the smart object and the specific business card sheet opens for us. Now we can change this business card design to something else. For example, we can throw a picture from our album here. You understand that instead of an abstract picture, we can put our own or our client's data here. When we are done with the scale, press Ctrl S or Command S and return to the original file. Here we see our picture in place of the business card with all the shadows, treated corners where there are fingers and near the pocket. There is no need to adjust or delete anything. Just put a flat picture inside. You saw I had minions here before. It's also very simple. We take pictures in our library, put them on top of the business card, place it the way we like. Now we should open a new layer instead of this business card. I had a gradient applied there. I take the gradient and create the following design. Ctrl+S and return to the original file. Here is our business card. It's a joke, of course, but instead of these minions we can put the data of our client. Most importantly, we can change this information in literally seconds by going to Smart Object, swapping for another image and saving by pressing Ctrl S. Now let's talk about how we can create a template for our mockup by ourselves. Here we can see an image downloaded from Pexels, which already has white areas for our information. I had created my own pen design and added a photo to my phone and tablet. Now let's do the same together. At the beginning I will delete the created layers and start creating a mockup. Step by step, take the rectangular marquee tool and draw a rectangle on top of the screen or tablet. We create a new layer and fill it with any color. I will use black. With Ctrl+D we remove the selection and transform this layer into a smart object. Right mouse click on Layer, convert to Smart Object. Now we should adjust this object to the size of our tablet screen. Ctrl+T. Right click, Distort. To see what we are doing, let's reduce opacity. Now we quickly and easily position the rectangle so it wraps around the part where we will have the picture as precisely as possible. Very good. Double click, changes saved. What is important now? Let's try to put a picture right away and see where the problems might be. We can give a name to Smart Object, such as iPad. Double clicking on a Smart Object opens it in new window, where we can throw any other picture. For example, we can drag this green leaf inside and place it nicely all over the screen. Ctrl+S return to our image. Remember that it had reduced opacity. We increase it. Everything is beautiful except for these corners here. What can be done to fix this problem? A good solution here is a mask that will close the pixels we don't need. How to do it? First you have to separate the object itself. Ctrl key on the keyboard and mouse click on the Smart Object. So we separate the object in the layer. Now let's take the mask. What is visible is white, invisible black. Take a black brush and use it to remove this extra piece here. It stays here but is no longer visible, as the mask is hidden these pixels. 2, 3, here's the last corner. Remember that if we close too many pixels like that, we change the color of the brush with the X key and add the accidentally deleted pixels. That's it. The picture on the tablet is ready. Now we do exactly the same thing, only faster, with the phone. Rectangular, new layer, color, fill, Ctrl D, right click, convert to smart object, Ctrl plus T, distort, reduce opacity. We adjust this shape to the screen size. Remember that it is not necessary to put a picture at the beginning and then delete unnecessary corners with a mask. We can immediately select this shape, take a mask and erase extra pixels by black brush going through the corners. With the X key we switch to white if we have deleted something extra. Now the opacity is back to 100%. We go inside the smart object, we select the image in the library and throw it in. Now we can modify it. It's not very nice that we are stretching these pictures like that, but that is not what we are talking about right now. Ctrl S and return to the image. Here's a nice phone screen. The last design element in this picture is a pen. The workflow is exactly the same. Rectangular Mark U tool, new layer, fill with color, Ctrl D, convert to smart object, again Ctrl plus D, right click, distort, opacity, and adjust to the shape of our pen, so that the whole pen is covered. A white object on a light background is poorly visible, so try hard. Here we need a mask for sure. Ctrl plus right key on the smart object. There is a selection. We take a mask. Now it can be erased very carefully with a black brush, and I would even recommend using a polygonal lasso tool instead of a brush, because then we can create a much more accurate output. We handle it out. Now we can paint this shape here with a black brush. Let's see what happens at the top. It's quite simple here. Opacity to 100% and double click inside the mask. Here we can put a picture on text. Let's make our own design. Take the gradient, choose a transition, for example from blue to white, and make a gradient. Here we will make some kind of our own design. Let's select such a rectangular, then shift another selection, shift smaller selection, even smaller, and almost a line. Now take a new layer and fill this with color, for example red. We make a copy of the layer, move it below and take green instead of red. Remember that at the very bottom we have the tip of our pen with which we write. However, it will be dark in color, so we just select a rectangle and fill it with black color. Let's see what we've got. Ctrl S and return to our picture. We have everything. The only problem is that everything is flat, especially the pen, but also both images. What we can do about that? We can change the layer mode. This is very important. Let's go to the pen layer and change the mode to multiply. And we immediately get more realistic picture with shadows. The pen was like this, flat. And that's how we add a depth to our work. In layer modes we can play with the up and down arrows to look at color burn, linear burn modes. We repeat the same for both screens. I select both layers and change the mode to multiply, and you see that everything changes a bit. All environmental factors start to work in complex. Shadows from edges, of the phone and different shades falling on the table. Like that it looks when we doesn't use layer modes, and like that using them. So that work is also finished. The next thing we will talk about is using smart objects so that those elements that are on top, such as a cup of coffee or a finger that could appear on this folder, do not interfere with us to put the necessary information on the object. Let's start as usual. Rectangular Mark You tool, mark the perimeter of the page. We take a new page, fill it with color, Ctrl D, make it a smart object. Now we enter a smart object and drag a picture inside. Let's press Ctrl S and see what we've got. We increase opacity. Everything has come together, and if we change the normal mode to multiply, then we see that this metal hoop shines through. But the thing is that it has to be on top and not to shine through. We also have one not very pleasant line around the perimeter. In some places it is wider and in others it is narrower. This is the distance from the edge of our smart object to the real perimeter of the page. We can remove it using a mask. There are several options to do this. The first, press Ctrl left mouse button on this picture. We have selected the object and now click on the mask at the bottom. Now we can use the brush to erase all the excess data. The second option is to use a polygonal lasso tool. A little faster and we can erase with a brush. The third option is to use a pen tool. To do this, I would suggest going back in history to the moment when the image was not yet attached to the mask. We reduce opacity and walk precisely around the perimeter of our page with a pen. We will talk about how to work with a pen another time. Now let's cover the big outline and the small one inside. When the outline is made, press Ctrl Enter and we get a selection. Now let's take a mask and see exactly what we have selected. This metal press looks good. Pay attention to the advantages of the pen tool in case we notice any deficiencies in the workout, such as incomplete page fragment. In that case, we delete the mask, return to the path selection and use the direct selection tool to shift the curve in the direction we need, covering these white pixels. Again, Ctrl plus Enter, selection, and in the layers selection we take the mask. Now we see the result of the correction. There are other places to fix, but that is not the purpose of this course. When the mask is ready, we go to the smart object and put the same image inside. Ctrl S and look at the result. The picture corresponds to the shape of the page. The hoop is on the top of the picture, but there is no visible shadow from it. We change the layer mode to multiply and we see all the shadows falling and page creased. All this stuff gives the impression that the sheet with a picture is really pinned to a folder. The next project we will talk about is a bag, t-shirt, hat, slippers or any other object on which we can put our logo or data, address, advertisement or picture. In this case we will put these beautiful hearts on an ordinary shopping bag. At first I'll delete the layers I've already created so I can show everything from scratch. As usual, we start with rectangular marquee tool. We fill the selection with color in new layer, which we transform into smart object. Now Ctrl D, Ctrl T, right click, distort. Now we adjust the shape again to the angle and shape of the bag. Note that the bag is not a flat sheet of paper based on a rectangular. The plastic form of the bag must be taken into account here. If the bag bends, then the picture must also bend along. In this case, I will use a polygonal lasso to create a new outline that more accurately replicates the shape of the bag. If the bag line bends in that direction, I also go in the same direction by the lasso tool. So we create a contour that would be parallel to the outer perimeter of the bag. Let's take a mask. The visible part of our image will be this. Opacity to 100%. Let's go inside the mask and put our picture with hearts here. Without much thought, we stretch the picture according to the size of our format. Ctrl S. Let's see how it works. The white background in this case is completely destroying the idea. We have to get rid of it and leave only the hearts. Let us go to the layer modes and look for the most appropriate one. Multiply mode doesn't look quite good, while darker color, a mode that is used much less often than multiply, in this case is just in time. Everything would be very good if not these few hearts here. There can't be only half a heart. Did you know that in Smart Object mode we can edit an image just like any other image? We should remember how the erasing tool works. Let's select those hearts here by the usual lasso tool. We select also these two using the shift. At first we rasterize the image with hearts, then Command Shift F5 and replace the partition with Content Aware. Ctrl S and look at our finished work. Everything is beautiful. It's one way to create product templates. The last we will talk about today is the labeling of bottles. This may be the most difficult task, but we know the most part of all actions we will be using. I have a lot of label options here. I'll group them so they don't interfere with our work. We start by tightening the label area by a long-known rectangular marquee tool. We should put the perimeter as close as possible to the label. We fill our color. Just remember that it must be another layer. Ctrl D, we transform it into a smart object. Again, Ctrl T, right click, distort, opacity, and place the corners exactly where they should be. Corner here, 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 and here. We have a smart object ready. Now we have to bend this object according to the shape of the bottle, unlike all the works we had before when we used a flat shape. So those lines which are straight on the label should be curved when the label is placed on the bottle. How to bend this plane? Right click on the plane, wrap. Now we bend it the way we need, center down. Speaking of corners, you should think about what an ellipse should look like when making a bottle cut. There is no fracture of the curve on either the left or the right side. It is still a circle, just compressed. Therefore, we pull these guides more sideways to form a correct ellipse here. We do the same at the top part. Now, in order not to damage our label, according to the central guidelines, we need to adapt them slightly to the directions and shapes of the guidelines that have already been set. If you do not see the curve, press Ctrl H to activate freehand tools. When we are satisfied with the result, we take any tool and in the window that opens we click on place and opacity to the maximum. If we are not satisfied with something, we can return Ctrl T, the right click, wrap. We can now change this shape by raising these points higher and covering the white part of the label. We go back and go inside the smart object. Here is our template. We put the selected label inside. Scale, Ctrl S, return to the file. The bending looks very good. Of course, we change the layer mode to multiply. Immediately the shadow and deep appear. We can try the linear burn, which also looks good. Other layer modes do not work in this case. Now we see that all lines of the straight label are curved according to the shape of the bottle. Well, of course, we can now replace this label with any other from our library, and it will look just as good. Let's try. Let's put the following label, Ctrl S. We see the same layer mode, everything looks very good. We can take a third label, which for example has been sent to us by a customer. Here is the label of some olive oil. Ctrl S and look at the result. Everything is fast and in high quality. This is all I wanted to say about the creation of mockups. Now I will tell you how to preserve it properly. Of course, file save as, write the name like a bottle, and save not as PSD but as PSDT. T corresponds to the word template. If we save this bottle as a template, it will take up a little more space, but opening it, modifying and saving it will never damage this PSDT file. Always pressing Ctrl S will get an offer to save it in another place. Now I will show you how it works. I close this file, open this bottle PSDT file. Here we have, let's go to the mask, let's take this label, press Ctrl S, the label has been changed, and now if I press Ctrl S or file save, Photoshop does not save on top of this file, but offers to save it in PSD format. We write a name and save it in the format we need, but it will be another file. And if we open our template, it will be the same as it was when we saved it. That's everything. Thanks for your attention. Try to do the same and better. I hope you will succeed soon. Wish you luck!